That's it. Right, now we just need to find.
You just go up to the view, top right, and then go try immersive, I think.
No. If Ryan hasn't got his camera turned on, he won't show up.
Yeah, go.
Apologies, everyone. We're just having a slight technical issue, but we'll get to go.
Oh, there we go.
Okay, I think we're all right then. Maybe he's just not there.
Sorted.
Okay, thank you very much. Technology, great until it's not great. Okay, welcome everyone to this afternoon's Risk and Audit Committee meeting. I'd just like to make a special welcome to Nathan Riley. Welcome, Nathan. Nathan is the new, has joined the senior leadership team leading the regulatory department. So just started this week, I understand. So welcome aboard, and also welcome to anyone listening in from afar, and to Ned Tarfree. Welcome, Ned, who's on Zoom with us, and Councillor Webb. Councillor, do you know if Councillor Nadon's joining? No, okay, that's all right. Okay, I'll get the meeting underway today. And first of all, before I call for apologies, I'm just going to do an agenda check, and just to let you all know that an email went out last night with regard to agenda item number 6. So that agenda item has been withdrawn under section 9.9 of standing orders. I've accepted that reason from the CEO. So if you could just, we'll go past that agenda item number 6, and that will appear in next month's Risk and Audit meeting. Welcome, Councillor Naylon. Just made a start to the meeting. So we'll get underway now, and we'll start with apologies. And I have one apology from Councillor Fallett. Any other apologies? Would someone move that we accept that apology from Councillor Fallett? Moved Councillor Grafton, seconded Councillor Weston. All in favour? Aye. Any against? No, carried unanimously. Okay, sorry, I'm a bit remiss here. I also would like to welcome Prualong, who's stepping in as the governance secretary for today. So there might be a wee bit of talk between the two of us. So we'll just, if we could have a bit of patience around that, that would be greatly appreciated. Okay, so now we're going to move on to agenda item number 2, which is members' interests. Do any of the councillors here today have any members' interest to declare in any of the agenda items? Nothing to declare. So I'll put the resolution that the resolve that the members disclose any financial or non-financial interest in any of the agenda items. We have a mover, Deputy Mayor Basher, seconded Councillor Grafton. All in favour? Aye. Any against? No, carried unanimously. Thank you. Yep. Okay, now we're going to go to the confirmation of the minutes, and these are the minutes of the 14th of February. Is there any matters for discussion? Any amendments? Nothing? Okay. Oh, sorry, Deputy Mayor.
I noticed that we've got 12 out of 12. Is it 12? Is it 12 councillors?
No, but there's me.
So so you're part of that.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, I'll put the motion that the Risk and Audit Committee receive and confirm the public minutes from the meeting of the 14th of February 2024. Have a mover. Second? Move. I'll move. Councillor O'Keefe, seconded Mayor Klein. All in favour? Any against? Carried unanimously. Thank you. I'm sorry just to go slightly backwards here. I'm just looking at my notes. Just to bear with me. I just wanted to make a quick comment about the terms of reference for those that would have read them and noted them, that they are the terms of reference prior to the meeting of council on the 28th of February. So just to let you know that I've spoken to CEO Giblin, and those amended terms of reference are in train, and they're due to come to full council at the next council meeting at the end of this month. So the next RAC agenda will have the new terms of reference that came out of that meeting. Okay, thank you. So now I'm going to move on to the action point list. So the action points. Now, I'm just going to move through them one by one because I have made some notes with regard to them for us to talk to. Glasses. Okay, so we've got 3 items which refer to the strategic risk register. So that's item 218, 228 and 233. They are discussed in agenda item 7 with regard to a timeline around the review of the strategic risk register. So I'm comfortable that that date at June 2024 is relevant. I'll make my comments first and then I'll open it up for any points of clarification before we put the motion. With regard to the information management project, and I'll refer to Douglas here, I just wanted to know, and this is for my own benefit, Douglas, is there a budgeted figure in the enhanced annual plan for the digitalisation of property files? Because you do make mention of that.
Yeah, yes, there is an allowance. Don't have the figure.
Don't need the figure.
I can provide that.
Yeah, right. Just wanted to know that. Okay, I'll just carry on. Action point 230, which is the PIP IAF update. We've had information there, and I believe that I'm comfortable that that matter can be closed, but I'll open that up for any further discussion after I've finished my list. LTP budget dates. Explanation provided there that the budget was correct, so I'm proposing to close that one. The debt recovery report, there'll be discussion in agenda item number 12 with regard to that, so that will refer back to the action point list. The dredge, well, that report's been withdrawn, so we'll update that date to April, and I think that the 2 other actions, which is the slumpage in the wharf back wall and the crack in the Buller Coal Limited floor shed, shed floor are ongoing items that will be reported through to risk and audit. So I'm comfortable with those. So they are my comments on those action points. Has anyone got anything else? Councillor Howard.
I sent through an email. There was a couple of actions in the minutes that hadn't been picked up in the action report. One was Sid back to councillors around the council ownership of Fuller Health Trust and info on trustees. The trusts are not like the company, so they're not owning the shares, so they control the trust and activities created by the ability to appoint trustees. So basically, that it is relevant to the CCO being sent. But there was 3.7 airport budgets, and there's a review to come on that. And 311, the BOF funding, that was the 20,000K, a timing issue.
Refer to you, Douglas, because you might be able to answer those
Thank you, Madam
two.
Chair. So the airport budget, so we are spending more in the budget, particularly on staff at this time. That was an assessment we did a number of months ago in terms of our cost of running the airport, which is a 7-day operation. And we found that to make sure we covered things like just day-to-day activities, our annual leave for our staff, training needs, and any other matters of running the airport, we did need to lift our staff numbers a bit. So we have got an increased cost in that area. That is something we're just ongoing at a need to assess, and obviously with recent matters in terms of how the airport's running, that will be an ongoing issue. We've got an SOI in front of us for discussion today as well. So that's the reason why that cost is high. In terms of the better off funding, and I've had a feedback, we think, and I've got to say we apologise that we say we think, but is your question related to the 20,000 for water tanks? Because we initially charged that for civil defence, and then we brought it back to be put into the critical emergency water project. So it was more about initially where it went, but then where it could ultimately be funded, being that particular specific project. Is that where your question was coming from, or
just you clarifying?
Okay,
So
so
at the time, there was a bit of confusion about the 20K. I think Councillor Reedy raised with the previous meeting.
Councillor Reedy, yes.
Yes, when we were, if you like, reporting 650K of better off from Wyman 20 through Paul Zarman stuck the front there, and there was agreement that there would be 20K allocated to concrete slabs for about 10 or 11 of the wood tanks that we have down here wherever they're installed. So there was then another point about some additional funds. I can't remember what it was now. So I just asked the question, well, what happened? Why has it increased? Why has the amount increased when we already agreed on 20K? So it's basically the question.
okay. So that does help me. I will come back and report to you formally next meeting. Then as a matter under investigation. So we'll add that to our list.
Yeah, if I can, it's just I just don't have that number or the issue right.
That's fine. We'll get Douglas to follow that up to look at that. And we'll add that as an action point and make the based on that later. So the second point that Councillor Howard raised, which was the airport, and we can also discuss it further if need be in the statement of intent. Councillor Howard. Okay, so any other points for discussion on this? Okay. So I'm going to go back to the resolution that the Risk and Audit Committee received the action point report for information. Can I have a mover? Deputy Mayor Basher, seconded Councillor Howard, all in favour? Aye. Any against? Carried unanimously, thank you. Okay, so now we're going to move on to now the Risk and Audit Workplan Report. So you would have, usually we would present a work plan, but of course that's been turned on its head somewhat with regard to the new structure and the bi-monthly meetings. And then, so Douglas and I have been working together on looking at this. It's still a bit of a work in progress to make sure that we get all the meetings lined up. But what we have agreed with the agreement of council today is that the bi-monthly meeting should fall as we've scheduled them here. So I'll call it every even month. And that really was around making sure that we align with things that happen within council. And June, as you'll know, is a very important month. So a lot of matters fall at the end towards the end of the financial year. The other thing is that if we made it the odd months, one would be January, and council doesn't usually or traditionally meet in January. And for it to be a RAC meeting, it would be the second week in January, and with holidays, that just really wouldn't work at all. So we're suggesting the bi-monthly schedule will be those even months, and then based on that, Douglas will bring back a work plan next month that we would have worked on together in order to populate it out with what we know we have to achieve within Risk and Audit Committee. So I'll open that up for any further. Did you want to add anything to that, Douglas, before I ask councillors if they have any questions for clarification?
No, thank you.
Okay, anything, councillors? So if you're comfortable with that, we will, I think the recommendation will have to say that the Risk and Audit Committee received the Risk and Audit Plan report for information, because you haven't actually got a plan in front of you. So I'll move that way. Somebody would second. Councillor Weston, all in favour? Aye. Any against? No, carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay. Agenda item 6, we're not going to deal with today. That will come next month. So now we've got the Strategic Risk Register report. And this has been, as you know, an ongoing report. We receive a monthly update, and we are working towards that review. And so I just checked the calendar, and Douglas, you'll be able to help me out here. Is it still scheduled first workshop for the 27th of March with the councillors?
It is, yeah.
Okay.
9 o'clock.
At 9 o'clock, so that will kick off that whole review process. Just before I open it up for discussion, I just will note that the recommendation, the date is not correct. Well, it should actually say March 2024, which is what the heading of the actual report is. So we've received within this report some updates on where we are with regard to various risks, and also taking into account those items that we have in the action point list, which will absolutely be captured in the review. So with that in mind, I'm going to open it up for any questions for clarification before I put the resolution. No? Okay. Oh, Councillor Reid, yes.
Just on item 3, last paragraph. Just regarding the information from all 5 workshops when we collated, and Risk and Audit April-May meeting, well, just before we're agreeing on every alternate month, and so therefore April's out of the question, because if they're looking at early April for collating, and in the workshops and what have you, we have the meeting second week. It's pushing a little bit because we're on a week beforehand, and there's nothing in May, so therefore the earliest we'll be looking at is June. That would be correct.
That is a good point you make, Douglas.
I'm not going to correct, but what I'm going to tell you is we had 1 workshop today. We've got your council workshop planned for next week, and I think we'll have 1 more done before Easter break. So I think the intent here is to try and update whatever we've got, just to see is there anything new coming out, just so we're giving you some feedback in that May period. There may not be a lot, but there might be something of particular interest to me is report format. Reporting back to you is one that hopefully we'll spend a wee bit of time on when we have your own workshop on the 27th. March. So, yeah, sure, it won't be a complete review, but it will be something to show intent.
But we won't be having RAC in May. So what will you have? Will there be anything you can bring back to the April meeting?
Madam Chair, look, I hit a bit of a bid on April, May when I wrote the report.
Yes.
So now assume it's April, because that's
Yes,
what we're confirming the schedule be. So, yeah, no, there will be something, but it might be that nothing major is coming out of the reviews we've done today.
Okay, so where does that place us if this, correlation of all the information and then a draft risk register won't make it back to risk and audit until mid-June? Does that then give time to adopt something by the end of June? I mean, that could go to full council it's really around that the review has been completed and a risk register may then we're pushing it out to August, aren't we?
Well, Madam Chair, I think we look at a draft coming to risk and audit in June,
Yes.
so whatever that day is, and then a final going to the council meeting in June.
Yeah.
Unless there was something that risk asked us to look at further, and then it would go to whatever month it was. So the expectation is we'll have this work completed by end of June.
Okay. Councillors comfortable with that? Okay. Any further questions? Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Just a comment on that, I think that what gives me some comfort is it's not that we don't have a risk register.
Oh, no,
Or
not
we're
at all.
not cognizant of risk, it's just that it's a review process
Yes.
that should be done, so it's a month either side. If we have no risk register, then obviously it'd be a bit of a scramble to get one in place, but we have got a framework and a register and we talk about risk appropriately at a governance level, so I'm comfortable with that.
And we have been receiving the regular updates around the identified risks. So, and certainly at any point in time in between meetings, if a risk is identified, then we're alerted to it at a governance level. Okay, I'm going to put the resolution.
Graham's got his hand up.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Naylon. Apologies.
That's all right. This might be outside your sphere, but I thought we'd decided at the last council meeting that workshops would start at 1 p.m. and suddenly we've got a risk one at 9 a.m. Not sure how that came about.
Okay, yes, it is outside my sphere, but I'll put that over to those that organise workshops, which, am I looking to you, CEO Giblin?
Thank you. It's a great question. I think the Mayor at the previous workshop tabled one of the transition periods we're through at the moment, and some of these workshops have been pre-booked and or scheduled prior to the decision of council, and we've got a transition period of between 4 to 6 weeks whilst we iron out all of these little inconsistencies. So the team are working hard. We're really trying to commit to those timeframes, but there are a couple of workshops that we've had to fit in just to achieve the work program. So hopefully that addresses the question.
Did that answer your question, Councillor Naylon? Thank you. Councillor Howard, did you have your hand up?
No, I was just raising.
Oh, thank you. You had your hand up for Councillor Naylon. I appreciate that. Okay, I'm going to put the recommendation that the Risk and Audit Committee note the updates received for the risk register as at March 2024. Have a mover for that. Is that you, Councillor Naylon, with your hand up?
No, it's come to screen.
No? Okay. Councillor Howard seconded, Councillor Grafton, all in favour? Any against?
Abstain, please, name recorded.
Thank you. So Colin Knights if he abstained, votes against him, his name recorded. Okay, motion carried. Thank you. Now we're going to move on to the agenda item number 8, which is the health and safety report, and as you know, this provides the committee with details and progress on initiatives and activities as part of council's commitment to providing a safe and healthy workplace. And reading the report and the other reports we've had last year, I just really want to commend the team that have been working on these, on the new initiatives, and if you could pass that on, Steve, to the team that have been involved in it, because I think there's appears to have been a lot of hard work put in here to the report and the initiatives that are going on. So I'm going, I haven't got Linda, or we've got, will you speak to this report? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, look, this is part of our regular report, and I will be bringing an update on the engagement survey to the next council meeting, which will give you a sense of what the vibe is like in council from the staffing point of view. The reason I say that's the platform for us to develop a really clear plan for looking after our people, both in terms of their employment, retention, recruitment, but also in terms of the training and support we put around. And there's a couple of sections in here that I think Lauren ongoing look at is around, things like bullying, harassment training, around things like equity, diversity training. There's a lot of work that will be coming through this people plan, driven off our engagement survey, but also driven off the reporting that we do on a regular basis. The management team met, and we've got an all-staff meeting on Friday to talk about this and how we're going to implement these changes. How the new CEO will come in and pick up those changes and implement through the year. But certainly there are some key things in here that we are really looking to bring forward from a staffing point of view, and welcome your feedback. If there's any other reports or any other data that you would like to see come through, then that is something that our team will be looking at. It's around how do you manage what you measure. So we want to make sure that we are capturing the right data and we're sharing it, we're open, but we're also doing something with it.
And would you say you're getting good feedback from staff on these initiatives?
Look, it's we're probably at the point where we're launching a number of these things in the next 2 to 3 days. I guess the engagement survey has given us a real good sense about where our opportunities for improvement are, but where our strengths are, so we're going to play to those. But yeah, we do have a pretty well engaged team, so we are getting good feedback. We've just got to now finalise to implement that into action.
Great, thank you, appreciate that. Are there any questions for clarification? Councillor Weston.
Just under the NEMA, it's got linked to the staff and the allergies. Is that under the NEMA?
I don't know.
It relates to an allergy within a workplace, so it's something that, it's not an incident, but it's something that the team can manage if they're aware and they know about it. So,
Mr. Mayor.
Can I just comment on something from either point of view today? The community should have got an invite to an LGNZ 1 hour roundtable, they're calling it, which is a seminar on elected members around online harassment and bullying, which I think is something from our point of view, from a health and safety point of view, can be quite invasive to people's personal lives and things around comments on social media and the like around us as we carry out our roles. So that's an option on the 18th of April for any council who wants to accept that invite to go on. I think it's going to be a bit of advice from police and social media experts around how you manage online harassment and bullying that disrupts your sense of emotional and physical safety. So just a slight tangent, but
yeah, no.
I think it's tabling that there is support there for the members as well around that stuff.
So that date through the check.
18th of April.
You'll have an email.
So it should be an email. Well, that's great news to hear then for that support.
It's not my only thing, so anyway.
Yes, it seems to have been becoming more and more of an issue for not just local government, but central government or any front-facing people to the community. So I think any strategies you can have will be certainly an advantage. Okay, any other questions? No, I'm going to put the recommendation that Risk and Audit Committee receive the Health and Safety Report for information. Moved Deputy Mayor Basher, seconded Councillor O'Keefe, got you down the end. All in favour? Any against? Carried unanimously, thank you. So now we're moving on to the statement of intent for Buller Holdings Limited Group for the year ended 30th of June 2025. And you would have noted that is different from previous years for those that have been involved in your August council would have been last year, and that it is not 3 separate statements of intent. They've been incorporated within one statement of intent for the Buller Holdings Group. And looking back to last year's statements of intent, there is a lot of crossover between the commentary around in each statement of intent. So just drawing to your attention that this is presented in a slightly different way. And also, just before I put it out for questions for clarification, I just want to note a couple of items. Now, with regard to the recommended resolution 2, I'm actually suggesting that we don't use that resolution really, because I think it's more around the governor to governor at this level to ensure that when those meetings are held with Buller Holdings directors, that we always discuss that distribution and what that's looking like based on performance. So that's 3 meetings a year. That's an opportunity. I think it's probably a given that the staff to staff or CEO to CEO having those regular discussions. So I'm not 100% sure that we need that second resolution, but I'm open to listening to views of other councillors. And also, before I lose sight of it, we will have to have a bit of a discussion about the meeting schedule, but I'll bring that forward at the end. There are some other things for you to think about when you pose some questions, if you have any to staff, or before you adopt or recommend this draft or give any notes, in that the depot is mentioned in the statement of intent. That is a major transaction and will have to come back to council for approval. So, and I've had discussions with the chair of Buller Holdings just around what that will look like going forward, and they're doing a lot of work, and it may be dependent on how the companies perform over the ensuing year or 2. And also within the statement of intent, there's an increase in the management fee of $55,000 to Buller Recreation Limited. Now, I've talked to Douglas about this, and he has informed me that at the workshops this has been discussed. So, being that I haven't been to those workshops, I'm leaving it over to councillors to either advise that that is correct and that's what they want to do and accept in the statement of intent. So they're my observations around the statement of intent. So now I'm going to ask Douglas if there's anything else he would like to add before I put it out for questions for clarification.
Madam Chair, just one comment I'd like to make. So I have a regular catch up with the CFO Buller Holdings, and we're just discussing just obviously CFO to CFO discussions on various issues, but certainly we had a good discussion about the potential for the yard development, and we both clearly have understanding that we're trying to find the best that's for Westport and Buller Holdings in terms of its operations, but we also need to think about council as a group of activities, because obviously currently they're using Russell Street and that provides an income stream for the council. So we do need to think holistically about both parts of the organisation. The key thing that the board of Buller Holdings want, which are indicated here, they need a business case put as to why this is a good idea. So, the building block of land was the right thing to have been done, and we've proceeded there. But then doing the yard development is the next stage, and there's a lot to think about there. So I'm just making that observation. Happy with your comment about the change to number 2. Happy to take any questions, and we can assist where we can with Stockman.
Okay, I'm going to open it up for any questions. Councillor Weston.
Madam Chair, I noticed even if it's a combined statement of intent, I noticed that Westbury is still being singled out as the 1.3, so I see that's in here. So that it could be a single statement of intent, we think that 1.3 goes across the whole street. I see it's written in here.
Wait, what page are you on here that refers to it?
51.
That's just the 2 line.
Good point you make. So the distribution comes from Fuller Holdings. Or could you explain, yeah, okay, this could, it's a tax implication, isn't it?
Question, yeah, I mean, just going back to look at the Fuller Holdings part of the SOI, just to see what it says about distribution. Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, ultimately, the profits flowing through the group up into Fuller Holdings are only really coming from one part, which is Westport. So I suppose it is in reality a statement of fact. But the key thing we want in the SOI is obviously clarity that ultimately we're looking at Fuller Holdings. Because we don't hold the shares in Westport, we hold the shares in Fuller Holdings. So let's just make sure we've got that clarity here and we haven't, as we brought through the 3 SIs to 1, we haven't missed something in that process. But we're all clear, I know that for Fuller Holdings, but we need to make sure the SI stands on its own 2 feet. So we'll make that a follow-up.
So absolutely, so really good point, Councillor Weston.
Yeah, just add into that fund, that brings in fees to that, and did you want to get rid of that? Or alter that statement, so instead of what holders,
yeah, I'm proposing that we do away with it, but well, and bearing in mind what you've just said then, that's probably better too, but we'll carry on with the discussion and then we'll come back to the resolutions. Councillor Howard.
Just regard to the 55 increase in the service level fee increase, I know it's been discussed at the workshop, but I'm not sure we ever actually had a consensus on whether we in principle agree with it or not.
Yeah, but concur with what Councillor Howard's saying. Additional bit of information that I'm just not sure whether we've included in the report, but certainly we asked Buller Recreation through Buller Holdings to look at how they could make changes to how they manage their business. So 2 changes they've advised us of. One is they've been reviewing their fees and they are increasing their fees in a number of areas. They're being advised to their clients or membership very shortly. And the second thing is they are reducing the hours that the quad or the pool side is open, because they know that the level of people turning up during that period is very low. So that's part of reducing their costs. The 2 issues, increased income and reducing their costs. And then the next question is, does that impact their management fee? And the answer is no, they still believe they want to put forward that management fee increase. We're sort of been a topic of discussion. I know Mr. Gibbons had a discussion with Mr. Scanlon on the same matter. It's probably one of those challenges where we listen carefully to West Reef when they need to make claims for additional costs for water and wastewater to make sure their business is profitable and they can deliver the services we need. Similarly, when Buller Recreation are coming to us and saying, well, we have got costs we need to manage, and the way we see it is we need to come to you, Council, and seek additional financial support. So I just say that it's similar in that vein. We get obviously access to annual reports, we get access to SOIs, we get the information we need. We as staff would recommend that it's acceptable to take on faith that that is the additional money they need to manage the 2 facilities on their behalf. And we just see, obviously, ultimately a council decision in terms of the budget. Position when we adopt it on the 10th of April.
Right, so there's a bit of a timing issue here, isn't there? Because this draft statement of intent, which we're discussing today, has that increase, but then councils might get to the 10th of April with their enhanced annual plan, the draft enhanced annual plan that goes out for consultation, in which they've said yes or no to the 55. It's a bit of a chicken and egg situation here. So Any councillors want to make any comment on that, or can you give some advice on how we could deal with the timing of this?
Well, Madam Chair, the key thing is this is a draft SOI and we're putting in a draft enhanced annual plan in early April. What's most critical is that we have consistency between the SOI when it's finally adopted and the annual plan which is adopted, and I'm imagining they'll be on the same day, which whatever that day in June is. So we should have both documents aligned at that point as to the management fee that's in the SOI and the management fee we're agreeing to in the annual plan. So, simply if we decide we should decrease it or maybe even increase it, then we need to make sure that flows through both documents.
Yes, but we have to give an indication shortly back to Buller Holdings. They'll be working on exactly the same thing at their end, but until decisions are made, I guess that can't happen. Councillor Reedy, did you have a comment around this?
Just regarding the 55 at the moment?
Yes. Yeah, if you can, that would.
We're just 55 at the moment. We did discuss this, I believe, this time last year regarding a draft SOI, and that there would be a motion put forward or recommendation put forward that we increase it for the 24-25 year. And everyone agreed on that, but it was only at the time for discussion. It might have been in this environment here. For me, I'm not sure what the difference is between increasing the management fee by 55,000, thereby supposedly reducing the loss that PERC is going to make by 55,000, or we leave it as it is and they make a loss of whatever it is, plus the 55,000 that we're not going to give them. And at the end of the day, it's all going to relate to the tax side of it, tax benefits. So are we paying 55 so we can reduce their other tax losses? I mean, I'm not in favour of the side of the accounting, our tax accounting, but it's a what's the term? Quid pro quo. Where is the advantage? That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm asking. Either way, it's going to bite the ratepayer, either by direct funding of 55 or coming back through tax losses in the write-off. And I'm not sure whether or not, Madam Chair, if we're in a position to really answer that now, unless.
Madam Chair, I thank you, Councillor Reid. No, I don't think we're in a position to answer that with any clarity over the tax treatment. That is probably something we just need to come back and give advice on. I know one of the matters we were discussing a couple of weeks ago was, okay, well, do we have a management agreement document that sits between ourselves and Westport Recreation? And it was one of those matters where it's probably been in place for quite a few years, and we just need to find that agreement, because in reality, the agreement should actually state what we fund from the management fee. We all know what we're funding, but actually the agreement, shouldn't be an informal thing, it should be a documented thing. So one of the things we're also going to look at staff is just say, well, what does our agreement say? Maybe we need to update the agreement anyway and bring it through both parties so that it won't be a long document, just needs to be a couple of pages about the key points. But it would also document the methodology for the management fee going forward, so that we know what the clarity is.
Okay. Councillor
Just one further issue,
yes.
if I may. Regarding 55, it's well known, and I know the Mayor's mentioned this before, that there was an agreement 2 or 3 years ago, maybe a bit longer, to reduce the management fee by X dollars to smooth some, let's say, just some financial processes, and not that there's ever an expectation that it would be brought back up again, but that was done at the time. Now, Buller Holdings are asking for an increase of 55. So, do we go cap in hand or not? That's really the question of what the advantage is. Slight increase in what's payable, what was said before, what's payable by the ratepayer, or tax benefit.
Okay, I think, we need a bit more information about that, and also there's a slight timing issue with regard to going back to Buller Holdings Limited, depending on what comes through with the consultation document. Mr. Mayor.
So I get circular kind of argument financially, totally hear what your point. You know, it'll just come off our dividend arguably, potentially, if you don't fund it. But if you put it from a board point of view, then the service they're providing, their costs will have gone up, you know, their wages, and presumably whatever is included as a service and management fee. So it's encouraging the board that they seek to have some kind of at least inflation adjustment over time of whatever that fee is, just that would be prudent business. But then on the other side is the effect of the community side of it. So effectively what we're talking about here is what's the appetite for ratepayer subsidising of the community use of the facility. And is that at a level that everyone's comfortable with, or is an appetite to increase it? Because the decision the board will have to make is if that 55 increase doesn't come from ratepayers, then arguably, presumably, they'll be looking at recovering that from fees and users, which some would say is fair enough, and others will say, well, that might drive down usage, and some people who currently use it cannot afford it. And likewise, so there's sort of that side of which I think probably the board and management of PERC are the only ones that can really judge the market impact of a fee rise to their customers. They're the right people to do that, but I think the government's decision is the appetite for general ratepayer subsidisation of the facility. You know, that's happened right. It doesn't help anyone's argument.
No, that's right.
There is that softer side to this argument that is not necessarily captured by the circular financial argument.
Yes, that's right. And it's the overall impact at the end of that, isn't it? And I guess there's still a few unknowns. I'll go to Councillor Basher and then I'll try to wrap this up.
I think we started this off by saying that PERC are already looking at increasing fees, and they are increasing fees, which is, I guess, providing more income. So, you know, I guess the question is, will those fee increases be basically counteract the 55,000 that they're asking for? Because I know they are increasing their fees, but I guess it would be interesting to know what they're expected to gain through the membership, because they'd have a rough idea what they're expecting to gain more.
They would. Okay, so let's try and wrap it up for today about where we go from here. So I think the first resolution talks about receiving the draft statements of intent, which we've discussed. So we are receiving them. We have to work out where we go from there. So I'll put the first resolution. I'll put the resolution here that the Risk and Audit Committee received the draft statement of intent for Buller Holdings Group, which incorporates Buller Holdings, West Reef, and Buller Recreation for the year ended 30th of June. So we're just receiving the draft statement here. That's a resolution. Someone like to move that resolution? Then we'll just do a little bit more discussion and we'll wrap it up. So I'm just putting this resolution. Mr. Mayor, seconded by Councillor Sampson. All in favour?
Hang on. Isn't there
yeah, sorry, open for discussion. I've jumped ahead, Councillor Nathan.
Yes.
You have something to add there?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. And 2 in the report, it talks about allowing for review and comment on the content of the statement of intent. So I'm going to take the opportunity to add my comments, if you like. Yes. And then in 4 in the report, the first bullet point talks about that they state publicly the activities and intentions of Buller Holdings, and I don't believe that the statement of intent actually covers the intentions fully enough in terms of the thing. The second bullet point says provide an opportunity for the shareholders to influence the direction of the organisation, and I've spoken in the past about the direction that I'm not happy with. They seem to be on a path or a strategy, if you like, of increasing revenue and at the same time increasing costs. And I wonder what, that seems to be the short-term game, if you like. I wonder what the long-term game is and where it actually, where they intend ending up. Because if you look at the revenues over the last 5 or 6 years, they've increased dramatically. But here we are, we're looking at a $55,000 increase for Buller Recreation because they can't make enough money. And also our distribution is under threat. The 1.3 million And I've commented before that that's remained the same year on year on year, even though the revenue for the company has gone up exponentially. And I just think that if we're allowed to influence the direction of the organisation, we need an explanation in the SOI of what that direction is, because it just seems to me that it's very, very scant on detail about why they're pursuing this option of increasing revenue, and yet the costs are catching up on them. It seems like, I know in the private sector, when the contracting businesses get really, really tough, that people are not winning tenders, they're actually buying tenders. And I wonder whether this is the case in point here. And I think we need much more dialogue, if you like, much more fleshing out of what the direction of the company is and why they're pursuing this strategy.
Okay, so on that note, with regard to the resolution, I'm thinking that we'll put the resolution, but I think we need an action point from it which takes us to the next point. And I think, bearing in mind discussion that we've had here today and Councillor Nayland's point, those things could be brought up with a directors meeting with the governance team. So the Mayor, myself and one other, and the next meeting is the 11th of April, which might be quite a fortuitous time to discuss that before this comes back to another meeting. And that might also help with the timing of when councillors have their workshop or their meeting to adopt a draft enhanced annual plan to go out for consultation. So there's a few things that we need to find out or discuss with the directors in order to finalise this statement of intent. So that is where I'm thinking that this might lead on to more of an action point. So there's some action for you, Douglas, to find out around about the tax question and so on, and then the benefit back to the ratepayer. And then there's some discussion to be had with the directors around the moving forward around the way in which the company operates. That's where I'm leading towards. Councillor Nayland, I'll come back to you, and then Mr Mayor. I'll go into Graham first.
I'm just a little bit confused then, because this statement of intent's come, and then we've got to finalise it by the 30th of June, and all we're doing today is receiving it.
Yes.
What's the point?
Well, we're receiving it for discussion. We have to have some form of resolution to get to the point, that we've even received it. So I think the point is reading under the Act. It says in the paper there that the council by resolution can ask for changes. And yes, but the thing is, if I'm reading the room right, we don't actually know what those changes are to be yet. So are the changes that you don't accept the 55 increase, or matters that have been discussed here, or the direction of the company, or is it more of an action for discussion to be had with the directors of Buller Holdings? Well, if you'd like to, I'll put it this way then. If we've got a motion on the table, which I'll put, and then if you've got another resolution you'd like to put more to, we can test that out, or we could treat it more as an action. If you have a wee think about that, I'll go to Mr Mayor to see what his comment was.
I was just going to say, along the same lines, I think my understanding is this is to receive this for discussion, yes. And out of the discussion may come a resolution that asks some things to be changed.
Yes.
And so, further to Councillor Nayland's point, I wonder if rather than just 2 or 3 of us meet with the board, we don't invite the board to briefly speak to all of council. If there's real concerns around the general direction of the company or strategy and things, then extend the opportunity for the chair and CEO or whatever of the holdings company to come in and answer some questions and talk about the rationale and why they're where they are. I don't see any harm in that.
Okay. Councillor Reedy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I agree with what we're saying, and also Councillor Naylor
Yep.
I'll just make one point, please. I'll raise it in the email, but just on page 44, second paragraph, basically Schedule A to the LGA sets out details and what have you. Basically what it says is that draft statement of intent must be delivered to the shareholders, which is us, to receive and make comment on each year by 1 March. That's some legislation. Today's the 13th of March. So I'm a little bit concerned that we are going beyond. We're not meeting the, there is an option, of course, under Schedule 8, Part 1, Clause 4, written notice for which can be for no longer than 1 month. In other words, to an extension. So we could be talking about this now, provided what in writing to the directors that that's what we want to do. At the moment, I'm not aware of anything in writing, and what we're discussing now is contrary to legislation, which can be provide difficulties.
I hear what you're saying, Councillor Reedy, but I think I have a slightly different view on that, in the sense that the statement of intent was actually provided to council as an organisation. So it came through to the management team on the 13th of February. Now, it's a timing thing for it to come to the governance team, but it was actually delivered to the, well, not physically delivered, or however you receive it, on the 13th of February. So I'm looking for some guidance here, but I think that meets that legislatory requirement.
But Chair, I don't think there's an actual legislatory requirement actually, but I've just while we've been sitting here thinking about the debate about the statement of intent, I've gone back and looked at last year's statement of intent and what we sent to the company. Now, we actually did raise a number of matters about format with the SOI, and we did have quite a long discussion and sent them requests which we received back about the recreational side and its business there. So there was probably more that we put into the SOI last year. Remembering also too that we obviously got a half-year report which was reported to council 2 weeks ago, and they've had a very tough first 6 months. So taking into account that, and you know, arguably you could say, well, we perhaps could have included some of that in this report. Okay, fair call. The company has made a number of changes, but there are 2 big things that they're wanting to make sure they achieve. And now I'm talking about Buller Holdings on behalf of the group. One is we need them to keep that dividend or that distribution to us up at that level. We'd all like more, but you know, as Councillor Nalon said, you know, times are tough out there, and it is difficult to maintain their position. So they're not seeing great income flows, particularly coming out of Westport. They are quite steady. And the second one is this major project we've got underway about, will they be able to grow the business better if they have a much more effective and efficient yard activity? And to me, that at the moment, with the economy a bit challenging, they are focusing rightfully on continuing to protect their revenue streams and keep their profit and their distribution. That's right. And the key thing, can they add more value by being more efficient and effective with a better development? And that's the key thing I would think we need to watch and let that roll out and see where that process goes. So the 55 management fee, it's an important one, but in the scheme of things, we can give some advice on the issue, on how that's treated, but really that's probably reasonably minor in the scheme of things. The bigger issue I would suggest to you is that yard development, and then ultimately, can they build and grow the distribution to the council? A final comment would be, one of the matters we've got to review this year is our procurement policy, and getting some clarity about our relationship we have with ultimately council and Westport will be good for both parties as well. In other words, is there ways we can procure better that might be much more efficient and effective for them and ourselves?
Okay, we've got a couple of balls in the air here. I'm going to wrap this up because I think we've had a good discussion about it, and I've got a proposal to put to you all. So I think, Councillor Reedy, I'm feeling comfortable that we meet the legislation based on the fact that so just wrapping that part up, based on the fact that it was received by council as the organisation in February. I'm going to just park that one up for Douglas to get confirmation around that, because I would not like to do something wrong. With regard to everything else we discussed, I'm putting now an idea forward that perhaps what we could get out of this is a letter from the chairperson of Risk and Audit to the chairman of Buller Holdings, outlining matters that have been discussed within this board meeting and requesting, within this RAC meeting, and requesting that himself and CE and the board members, if they wish to, come to a meeting with full council, if that's what you wish, to discuss these issues, and we'll find a way to work that far better. So that would be more of an action on my part if that allowed us to find a way forward from here. Any other views on that? Is that a way forward? Councillor Naylor.
Just mindful, Madam Chair, that the legislation sets out the process quite clearly, and there's a warning in the report that, you know, we've got to stick strictly to the process. So we really need to have that what you're suggesting as part of the process and how it fits in.
Yes. Okay. Right. Mr. Mayor, did you have your hand up for something? No? Okay. Help me with the way forward here, Douglas. We've got one motion on the table, and I think what we might just add, who moved that one? Mayor, Mr. Mayor, and Councillor Simpson. So I think we'll receive the end of 30th of June for discussion. So we're receiving the statement of intent for discussion. So that's the motion that I'm asking, Mr. Mayor, would you be prepared to add those couple of words so that we clearly show what we're doing today with this draft statement of intent? Councillor Sampson, would you be prepared to alter your seconding? Yep, okay, I'm putting that motion now just so we can get that one off the table. All those in favour with that? Any against? Thank you, carried unanimously. Right, now we need a way forward and making sure that we will meet all the legislative requirements on what we're going to go from here. Bearing in mind that we do have a couple of dates that we have to try and line everything up with, and that's your workshop or resolution to accept the draft enhanced annual plan. And also there is a meeting with the directors scheduled for the 11th of April, which we could discuss some matters with them. But I want to make sure that we do this right.
So, Madam Chair, I mean, we've got a couple of options here. One is having plans that go into the draft enhanced plan process. But never forget, there's also the process of the submission process, hearing process, and the council can make adjustments as part of its other considerations when it gets to the final plan. So if there was something coming out of our discussions over the next few months with the statement of intent where we were able to reduce our costs or increase our distribution, then we can still take advantage of that. Yes, it might be beneficial to have it done by the draft, but again, you know, it could be through that final stage that we do have an ability to influence that. So if there was a view that the council through the risk committee wanted to have a discussion with the board just to explore more fully some of the matters in the statement of intent, then maybe the way forward is to have a recommendation noting a number of the council to, as the statement of intent allows, to meet and just explore things in more detail, which I would think should be around that yard development, where that's going to be going, and ultimately the distribution of whether it will be seen to be lifted in the future. That would, to me, be the two things. I think we gave it a good push last year to try to have a few format issues. Now it's more about the philosophy of where this company's going.
Madam Chair, as we were talking about process in relation to Councillor Naylor's point, comment in our report around the power to pass a resolution requiring modifications of the SOI. It was should consultant need to be concerned before this occurs. So
yes, we need to consult.
That the opportunity for the board, whoever they see fit to meet with council, would be the opportunity to consult. Would tick that would not tick the box, but would meet the criteria of being a consultation in terms of them having an opportunity to explain more broadly the questions of councillors and the strategic kind of question that Councillor Naylor raised around their company strategy and.
Okay. Yep, agreed. So we've got two ways of doing that. We can invite the board, or the chairman, CEO, to come and visit councillors, or it can be addressed when a group of the governance team meet with the directors, and the opportunity for that is the 11th of April. So my question back to you all is, which way would you prefer to do that? There is definitely an opportunity on the 11th of April, because I've already talked to Chairman Grave, and that is at 12:30 on the 11th of April. It's whether or not councillors as a whole are comfortable with a smaller delegation of people to have that discussion, or whether they all wish to be present for that discussion. So I'll go back to you, Councillor Naylon, because you raised an issue there. So what's your view?
Well, in terms of practicality, I think you have to take that 11th of April date. We don't have any other time between now and then for the whole council to meet. So I'm happy with that 11th of April date. I guess my thing is that I want to see that the statement teased out a bit more, so that we have a strategic direction from them. And I know I said before, we are, as shareholders, able to influence the direction of the organisation, but I think it's more important, before we try to influence, that we actually have a statement from them about what is their direction, what is their strategic direction. So I see you getting that on the April the 11th, and I'm happy with that.
Okay, so then if we do that, then what we've all agreed on in the past is that those attending those meetings would be myself as independent chair, Mr Mayor, and one other councillor on a rotation basis. So if we had one other councillor, and we'll treat it as an action point, is there any councillor that would like to volunteer, or someone suggest a councillor that would be that one for that particular time, that would then report back to the next RAC meeting, which would be just after this meeting on the 11th of April? Councillor Reedy, Councillor Naylon?
No, I won't come through.
Okay. Just need one person that can, Deputy Mayor?
Hard to know, just take a look at the calendar.
Okay.
Grant.
Excuse me, I'm even just looking at me at the moment, but I'm just looking for a calendar.
Okay.
Madam Chair, because I think I might be
Grant's also volunteer.
Yep.
committed. I'm just looking for.
Okay, right, well, let's,
Thursday.
I believe you should be committed.
right.
I won't be here either.
Oh. Okay, right, let's wrap this up, because everyone's got to check their calendars. So if we have an action point that the governance team, which I will be available, so that's one, and two others, so Mr Mayor will delegate to whoever he chooses in his place, and one other councillor yet to be confirmed, but we've got a few on the go. You're available? Great. Councillor Reedy? Mr Mayor's delegated person, he's going to work that out. We'll discuss the matters that we've talked about today with the Buller Holdings governance team, or the directors, Buller Holdings directors, and then we will report back to the Risk and Audit Committee meeting on the whatever date that is in April. That's not a resolution, more an action point. Are we comfortable with that? Okay, great. I'm going to wrap that one up there then. Thank you very much for your discussion. I hope that we can manage to incorporate that all into a meeting, but you'll hold us to account at the end of it. Right, we're going to move along to the statement of intent for the Westport Airport. And this is for the 30th of June 2025, so for the next financial year. So we know how statements of intent work now, because we've just discussed at length the one for Buller Holdings. There's just a couple of things in here, but before I make my comments or open it up, anything you want to add to this one, Douglas?
No, Madam Chair.
Okay. I just want you to have a think about, with regard to the second recommendation, whether or not, and Councillor Edie, thank you for bringing it to my attention, whether or not this committee can request staff to engage with the Ministry of Transport, or whether we request the CEO, or CEO Steve, have you got anything to add around process?
No, I think any time that any council or committee instructs staff, it's always generally done through me. And I think then it's my job, and I'm held accountable for the delivery of that staff performance. So in this case, whilst the wording is instructing staff, essentially they're telling me to go and do something, and I'll pass that instruction on to our team to go and do it. So I think the recommendation as it is, I think I'm comfortable with that. If that helps answer the question.
Answers my question, but Councillor Edie might want to bring up something else. But just before we launch into other questions, I just noticed in one of the pages in the statement of intent, and I'll leave this with Douglas to have a think about while I put the questions out there, is that one of the figures doesn't quite line up, and that's the capital expenditure on page 73. Mathematician Deputy Mayor Bashir picked it up as well. Two different figures, so if you can have that figure and then scroll down, and it's in the 25-26 budget.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, you have a think about that.
Oh, no,
okay, you can answer it.
Okay.
Okay, you fire ahead with your answer then, and I'll open it up for discussion.
Chair, so we did have an item there in an early version, which was a hangar, which was one of the development options that's been in this SOI for a couple of years, but we felt at this stage it wasn't appropriate to bring that project into the SOI because we need to do further work on what the demand was, and we just felt it didn't have it adequately there, so that was removed at a sort of late stage of the SOI preparation. And the second one we could do with the runway inspection vehicle, where we've slotted a net number of 8,000 in. So that assumes we purchase something and we sell the existing one, which is sort of getting to the end of its life, and that's probably hasn't been picked up correctly in that bottom number.
So what you're saying is the bottom number will be amended to 45,981.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Right. Any questions with regard to this statement of intent? No. Mr. Mayor, any questions with regard to the statement of intent as it is? Yeah, airport, nothing. Okay. One online. Okay, so we've got two draft recommendations here. The Risk and Audit Committee received the draft statement of intent for Westport Airport Authority for the year ended 30th of June 2025, noting the amendment to the capital expenditure in 2025-26. Someone move that way. Deputy Mayor Bashir, seconded Councillor Grafton, all in favour? Any against?
Abstain, please.
Abstaining. Yep, thank you. And then we've got the second recommendation that the Risk and Audit Committee request staff to engage with the Ministry of Transport and report their views to Council when the statement of intent is adopted as a final pre-30th of June 2024.
Shouldn't that be through staff through CEO or something? Or?
Yeah, I think you were indicating that it's not required, but we can change that, request CEO to engage.
And there's a technical manager here as well, and that CEO for the airport is actually Mrs. Trigg's role. So there is I think staff just gives enough generic thing, because often the SOI is a discussion that we often do on behalf of Ms. Trigg, and then we report back to her. So finance staff often do that with the MOT staff. So and that's been done by our management accountant in the last couple of years. So we can do it through CEO, but really just a generic staff comment, hopefully is acceptable to you.
Happy to move it.
Happy to move it. Deputy Mayor Bashir, seconded. Councillor O'Keefe, any further discussion? Councillor Naylor.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Yeah, same situation as we had before. Here we're going to be on the 30th of June adopting our enhanced annual plan and presumably adopting the final of this, and there's no time to make any changes on that day. So I think there has to be an in-between process myself.
Okay, so there will still be time to change the statement of intent subject to the consultation process.
Yes, Madam Chair, that's through you again. We've had some initial discussion with the MOT staff just as where we are in the statement of intent. The view here is, well, what else, I suppose, is the committee saying that they might like to, on behalf of the council, suggest we look at this stage. We do at council end in the joint venture drive the statement of intent because we are the operators, so we're putting this forward as appropriate. Is there anything else that the Risk and Audit Committee think we need to amend? I suppose we're seeing this as appropriate, but you might have another view. If you don't have another view, then you've got time to tell us in April if you want to give us just some feedback, and we can take that back to MOT. Okay,
so maybe thinking about that, this resolution goes a step too far. It's not actually saying that, is it? Maybe it should be as simple as the Risk and Audit Committee request staff to engage with the Ministry of Transport and report their views. Ministry of Transport with regard to the statement of intent and report their views to council prior to adoption.
Yep.
Is that semantics? I'm going to put it that way. No, you're struggling, Mr. Mayor.
I'm just struggling with what, we've had this agenda since Friday, for discussion. So today is a day to have put things on the table that we wanted to change.
Mm-hmm. But what this is saying is that this is.
What do you mean, another step?
Well, the step here is that Ministry of Transport hasn't finally been engaged. Is that what you?
We've had an initial discussion with them on the statement of intent, provided a copy as a draft. We'll expect to get some feedback. We'll engage. So they will give us some feedback. You as councillors might have some feedback to us. But you need to document what it is you think we need to be changing. Just having a sort of we think there's some more stuff to do. Well, that's okay, but actually we need to give some clarity on this one. Well, holdings I get, it's a bit more fluid because we are, we're very much linked. Here we've put forward what we think is an appropriate statement of intent to keep the airport running at its capacity to deliver the service that's being enjoyed. So at the moment, MOT will come back with some feedback. Do you councillors have a different view?
I've put can you read that? Councillor Naylon?
Yeah, thanks, Madam Chair. Yeah, to me, there's a huge ratepayer subsidy in this, and we're going through an enhanced annual plan. Why haven't we got the opportunity to say, well, we don't want to spend that much of ratepayer money on the airport?
Well, I think you still do have, because it'll go out for consultation. Well, councillors will adopt a draft enhanced annual plan, and so somewhere along the line something must have been agreed at that level. Then it'll go out for consultation. You'll hear from your people. That'll come back into it, as well as feedback from the Ministry of Transport, and I guess in that point something has to be adopted, and that must flow into the statement of intent, surely.
Yeah.
Are we all right with that?
Yeah.
Okay. Where did we get to? Be approved? Okay, we've got A's gone through. B, right, draft recommendation. Let's go. That the Risk and Audit Committee requests staff to engage with the Ministry of Transport and report their views back to council prior to the adoption of the statement of intent.
At the April meeting.
Might be tight.
Might be tight.
No, I realise that. There's not a lot to change.
We'll aim for it to be as quickly as possible, I guess. So I've read that resolution. Have I got someone that will move that way? No one. Okay. Can I have a that the Risk and Audit Committee requests staff to engage with the Ministry of Transport and report their views back to council. What I had prior to
the adoption of the statement of intent as a final by 30 June 2024. So just some slight changes to the wording there. Do you want to read that again?
You're still not happy because of...
No, it's a given.
Yeah.
Isn't that the whole point?
Yeah, I would have thought. But anyway, I'm putting it on the table because we've got a draft recommendation. Is anyone going to move it? Councillor Howard, a seconder.
Mr. Grafton.
Councillor Grafton. Any further discussion before I put the motion? All in favour? Any against?
Abstain, name recorded, please.
Thank you. So motion carried. Thank you. Thanks, team. Ooh.
Easy.
Who would have thought? Okay, investments and borrowings. So
Here's an easy one.
you say. Investments and borrowings, this report is at the 31st of January 2024. Very familiar with this report. I'm going to firstly go to Brooks for any comments around this before I open it up for questions for clarification.
No further comments, thank you.
Okay, as read. So any questions? Not a single one. Okay, I'm going to put the draft recommendation that the Risk and Audit Committee receive the investments and borrowings report as at the 31st of January for information. Now the mover, please. Move Deputy Mayor Basher, seconded Councillor Weston. All in favour? Aye. Any against?
Was that Graham?
No, Graham was for. Councillor Naylor, you're for? Motion?
Yeah.
Yep, thank you. Carried unanimously. Good check and proof. Thank you. Okay, now we're going to move on to the debt management report. Bear with me, I'm buzzing around here. Okay. So the debt management report is in front of us, and this is up to the 31st of January. There is also some comment. The question was asked last month with regard to interest within our debtors. That information has been answered. Whether that prompts some further discussion, we'll see. So this report, one of you got anything further to add with regard to this report, please?
Thank you, Chair. Just one matter to mention, which is briefly touched on in this report, is that last time the debt management report came up, we spoke about the piece of legislation that talked about how central government and local government, how long it takes to pay. That's since we understand being repealed, and therefore our software providers are no longer going to help us with that information. So that was around the timing of delay of payments, which was something that came up of interest through many different sources. You may note later on in the report there's sundry debt, which in this report shown in the schedules, there's a couple of large arrears, and those are central government, but they're not at risk and are still unavailable payments. So that would have been quite a useful piece of legislation if we'd seen it come through in that respect, but in terms of the work that we would have needed to have done, was no benefit to us. So I think that apart from that, I've got nothing more to add to this report.
Thank you very much. So that's good to get that clarification around grants, especially from government. And I also did talk to Douglas earlier last week or so, just around abandoned land. You'll see it in the sundry debtors report, and just getting an idea of where that program of works was. We did have quite a lot of work a few years back with regard to abandoned land at Charleston, because there is quite a lot of debt in relation to rates on abandoned land. So Douglas, do you want to just you've mentioned that it's in train, a little bit more information?
It's an area that we just need to put more, we haven't put any great focus on it for a number of months, so we need to do that. There's a process to do. As you said, the council has had to do this previously, so it's a process we'll use with the one of the local lawyers who has also that down. So we'll be making that instruction and just moving on with it so that we can ultimately recover that part of debt. So there is a process to follow as well. We'll document how to do that. So.
Okay. I'm going to open it up for questions for clarification. Nothing further. Just like to acknowledge that the report does talk to those that were affected by the floods in 2021, 2022. I want to acknowledge that and the work that's being done also by the team. Thank you for that, to assist those people and anyone affected by especially rates arrears. That it's really proactive, and it's good to see that. And it is, you know, it's tough out there, but there's options for people, and so it's great that our staff are pursuing that with those that need to. So I'm going to put the draft recommendation that the Risk and Audit Committee received the debt recovery report as at 31st of January 24 for information. Someone move that way, please. Councillor Grafton, seconded Councillor O'Keefe. All in favour? Aye. Any against?
Abstain, please, name recorded.
Yes. Councillor Reedy, motion is carried. Okay, I'm going to now just want to check on process. Was there some arrangement agreement that after 2 hours councillors would take a break, or are we comfortable to carry on? We haven't made 2 hours yet, have we?
No.
I've added it up wrong.
You've only got an hour and 25 minutes.
Got myself all excited about that.
Hour 25.
Hour 25, sorry, I jumped the gun.
Want to drag it out?
Yeah, wanting a cup
You're
of
not paid
coffee.
by the hour, get a regular.
Okay, thank you,
We-
Deputy Bushra.
We did actually agree, I thought at the workshop, that it was after 90 minutes, not 120 minutes. But
Oh, 90, I'll see then, I wasn't jumping the gun.
Madam Chair, if I may, standing orders say 2 hours. We don't make any changes in a workshop or whatever. And if we're going to make a change to the standing orders, 75%, blah, blah, blah. So 2 hours. So
2 hours it is then. Councillor Naden had my hopes up, but here we go. Thank you for that clarification. We're going to go on to the capital receipts and expenditure report. And this is to December 2023. And that is correct. Okay, so this is quite a comprehensive report, and I have talked to Douglas about this report. Huge amount of information in it to read and digest. And I'm just going to put it over to either Lynn or yourself, Douglas, just to round this report for any further explanation that might assist councillors in the reading of the report before I put it out for questions for clarification. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll just make a general comment. I'll get Stops to comment on the specifics of the report. We do spend quite a lot of time through a number of mechanisms reporting on our capital, as we should. One of the matters that I alluded to before with our procurement policy, but also how we report on capital and the systems we have in place for capital. We do need to do a review of that for implementation from 1 July 2024. And the reason for that is that we've been through a significant amount of sort of capital work initially with funding that we got out of people like the Provincial Growth Fund, where we had to set up new systems to sort of meet government obligations, and then as our flood recovery process. And so we've had a lot of effort go into creating the project management office and our reporting templates, PIP arrangement and that type of thing. So I do think it's duty bound on the finance team and working in particularly with the infrastructure team to just look at how we manage our project reporting going forward. And any feedback you want to give us on these type of reporting templates as to how they work for you, they make sense, they're simple to read, would be useful. You don't have to give that to us today, but anything you think of, because it is duty bound at times just to say, yep, we've got some good mechanisms, but are they working for us? And I think internally there's just a couple of things we need to just ourselves look at how we do our reporting. And so part of that is going through our processes and just clarifying a few points internally to make for the next set of managers. And I'm conscious that someone will be stepping into my shoes at some stage, just trying to help them out as they move forward. So yeah, that's just a general view about process. Mrs. Fox, anything you want to add?
Thank you.
I definitely think that the information you just shared there is very important. We'd like some feedback to try and make this easier for you. I understand there's so much content here. We actually aggregate a whole lot of general ledger lines up and to try and make it more reader friendly and easier, but maybe we're losing part of the story along the way. So it might be a piece of little sideline project we can work on in the next couple of months, even longer, to get this presented well. We've got the draft recommendation that that this report be received, but also just talking about a carryover to just tidy up at the end of the oversight when we had some work for draft recommendation 2. That's about the Region Service Centre improvements, where we had that actually operational to a point and we capitalised it at the end of the year. And then after that, we'll still through the budget that should have been carried over and wasn't. So we wanted to actually clarify that that's okay and play it up to this report. And just to clarify as well about the reserve fund contributions, you'll recall those that were in part of the last annual plan workshop where we spoke at length about the projects along with you. See, so it was about just tidying that up to make sure it's clear. There's certainly this budget available for that and also for the item 2 above. With my next page. Yeah, those are the 3 recommendations here. Just to try and clarify that, hopefully that explains why we've got those additionals there. And the details buried in amongst the schedules. We've tried not to repeat ourselves in the body of the report because the attachments include the detail, trying to get that balance and not repeat ourselves over and over.
I just do have a question, and this is just for my own clarification, just with regard to the recommendation 3, and it might just be the way I'm reading this, but with regard to approving total 35k to be funded from the reserve contributions for reserve projects that will exceed the budget for the year. I could be wrong here, but I thought that anything from reserves contribution had to have been approved during the annual plan process.
This amount was approved in the annual plan process. Our budget carryover process didn't recognise it and flag it, which is why we're just trying to tidy up.
So perhaps it needs to add in the approved carryover of, like you've got that in the recommendation above. Because when I read that in isolation, it could mean it just looks like it's an additional 35,000. Or am I reading that wrong? Just say it if I am.
Madam Chair, you've actually got a good point. I think we could reword that to say approve a total of 35k to be funded from reserve contributions for reserve projects from prior year carryover budget or something.
I'll let you think about that.
Yeah, I might need to set a little drop down there and suggest something.
Yeah, can you? Okay. I think I understand your intent and how it's got to there. Just want to make sure that the resolution reflects that. Okay. On this report, which is quite detailed, and I acknowledge that, and has been acknowledged by staff. So, any questions? And if Councillor Reedy.
Just, I'm going through, it says here on page 93, report summary and recommendations 2 and 3 below, further details included for such resolutions in Appendix A, but I just can't find anything detailing the 80,000, and it might be my reading of the small print, but I can't see any explanation of the 35 and the 80 in the.
Are you looking at in the sheets or?
No, it's on page 98.
Yes. Yep. Okay.
Page 98 is the Appendix A.
Yep. Okay, I'll refer to Lynn for that to see if she can highlight exactly where that might be within she's busy with her recommendation. Excuse me, Lynn, sorry. Councillor Reedy's asked the question with regard to those two resolutions. You have explained how they occurred. Is there any further commentary that we can't quite highlight at a quick look because it's so tiny, to be honest? I'm struggling to see it even with my glasses. In the commentary side of it, that gives a little bit more information. Yeah. Okay. 101 is. Yeah. Okay. Everyone's having whispers around. Are you saying, Deputy Mayor Basher, that you've spotted it?
No, the 80,000 is because of the overspend in the regional service centre.
Yes.
And it's just a carryover from other underspent projects, which are a few.
Are you feeling, Councillor Reedy, you still want some further?
101.
The second item down, it is a wee bit hard to read on the font size.
Yeah.
So page 101. Okay, so that's appendix C, not appendix A, which is why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rather than being pedantic.
It's okay, let's make sure we get it right. Yep, I see there. Okay, well, Councillor Reedy's having a chance to look through that. Any other questions? No? Gosh, you've given us so much information that's answered everyone's questions.
It's a lot of information.
It's a lot of information, and so I do thank Douglas and the team for having a look at this report to see. I mean, it's great to get that much information. It's like getting it in a way that's nice and clear. Okay, so Councillor Reedy.
If I may, just in terms of the 80,000 regional service centre, saying the original budget was 231, and there's 80 odd still to go, but the merger, the actual merger of the region of the visitor centre and the service centre was only capped at $100,000. So I'm a bit of a loss as to where the 231,000 comes from. And then we're talking about a second stage of the project was completed August 23, capital budget not carried over from 22-23 financial year. So I'm just not sure where this 80,000 comes into it.
Okay.
Where the 231,000 comes into it. And unfortunately, I have to rely on our good friends at the news
Alan, are you joining?
And at one stage we had a number of 78,000, and then we had 100,000. And there has been some concerns out in the community about the cost of this merger. And now I'm just seeing 231,000, and service merger won't cost the ratepayer and so on. So I'm just wondering where these numbers are coming from, please.
Okay. I'm going to come to you, Deputy Mayor Basher, because you look like you know the answer. While the team have a think.
What I was just saying is that it looks to me like the budget was adjusted, and the budget was only 90,000, which was under 100,000. But the 78,000, the 80,000 is what was additional to that 90,000 that was in the actual budget to complete the project, and that extra 80,000 was from carryovers from other projects. So the budget was reduced to under 100,000 from 231,000, and then the extra 80,000 is to cover that extra gap between the borough budget, the new budget of 90,000, to the actual cost, which was 168,000.
So are we saying, if I've got this right, was the 80 in the previous year's budget for the Regional Service Centre to be carried over plus 90? Just want to get this correct.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The wording of this resolution 2 is approve carryover of 80,000 from the remaining available budget from the year ended June 2023. So there was available budget. What happened there was it was not carried over at that point in time. So it was budgeted for and planned. When the carryover report was put to council, that part was not included in that carryover list. So all the request here is to actually could this be tidied up and be overtly organised, so there was some remaining budget,
Yep.
which was not spent.
Okay. Right. Councillor Reedy's looking for text, but anyway, so you've got, what's the total cost of that project? I'm just trying to iron this out, not want to drag it on for long, but I think it's important we get this right. Do we know what the total cost of the project was and what the budgeted cost?
As these reports are aggregated down line by line item, the best thing to do here is to put an action point down if it's okay.
Yes.
To bring this back to the next RAC
April,
to answer that question, because to the dollar I can't quote you.
Okay.
And I wouldn't like to guess. It's not
Okay.
what we do here.
No, that's correct. And no disrespect to Alan at Westport News, but we probably won't just rely on the news article, but
I reckon we can manage that one.
anyway, so what I would then propose is that we don't put that resolution, we bring it forward to the next RAC meeting to make sure that we get all the information correct. So I'm going to put 2 of the resolutions, which will be 1 and 3, which will now become 2, just to confuse matters. But anyway, that the Risk and Audit Committee received the capital projects and expenditure report to the 30th of December 2023 for information, and 2, which was 3, approve a total of 35k to be funded from the reserves contribution for the reserves projects that will exceed the budget for this year. But we were going to amend that.
Yeah, that's.
Have you got it for me? It's making us all quite. Right. Okay, so the reword is that the Risk and Audit Committee approve a total of $35,000 to be funded from the reserves contributions for projects that were approved in the previous 2022-23 annual plan, for which the budget should have been carried over. Got that? So Councillor O'Keefe's moving that way, lovely. Seconder, Councillor Weston. Any further discussion? So we've just got 2 resolutions on the table. Any further discussion? All in favour? Any against?
Abstain, please.
Abstain. Graham, I didn't get you. Are you against that? You're against? Yep. Okay, so we've got, let's check numbers here. Name against.
1 abstention.
You've got 1 against, Councillor Naylon, 1 abstention, Councillor Reedy, the rest are at 4.
So, excuse me, Mr. Chair, I just wonder why we don't move the second one, because we're only saying this is not about the total cost, which is the question that Lynn's talking about. Where does that recommendation is just to formalise something that's already happened.
I think the question though is around the whole project, and while there's still some question around, I think I just want to make sure we get that clarification. So there's an action point to come out of that too, Prue, and that is an action for the finance team to carry out some research with regard to you've got it.
Expenditure provides provide more detail and clarity.
Yes.
Over what the amount required to be considered for approval.
Okay.
So just again, point of clarity on clarity.
Ooh.
Reached in the service centre.
Yes.
I think, what Colin was asking, that the original budget was, 231. The current budget is 90,000 in expenditure to date. So is that what you're going to go back?
We're going to just pick up that project and just go back, as we do with a couple of them, and just say, just get clear what were our budgets, what did we spend, and how we're dealing with any difference.
There's clarity on clarity.
Yeah, that's lovely. Okay, so that's the action. So I'm going to move on to the next item now, and that is the NEMA IAF and Better Off Funding Projects and Partnership Report. Okay. Once again, you're very familiar with these reports, which are coming through now. There's some less but very detailed reports around them, but projects in partnership before they reach us, but absolutely open for any questions on clarity before I put the resolutions. Anything further to add on these?
No,
We got any? No? Okay, questions. So I'll deal with firstly the project status report for NEMA projects overview to the January 24. So this is a package of projects of $17.1 million. Penny's the lead, Penny Bicknell's the project manager on this. She's provided reports around all the packages that fall under this particular body of work. Any questions? Okay, so that one's okay, and we'll just move ahead then to the next one, which is the Better Off Funded Project Status Report. And this is the Better Off funding. This is the amount of $3,500,000. This contains a number of projects, 13, and of which 9 have been approved by the DIA. So the report's in front of you. As read, it looks like everything is got the green light under status at the moment. A good detailed report. Any questions, clarification on that report? Councillor Simpson.
On page 116,
Yep.
the very final figure there, 153,817 amount to claim.
Yes.
What sort of time frame has that been in for? You know, how long are we waiting? And when were those claims lodged? Well, same question.
That's a good question. Anyone able to? That's probably a question that Penny may have to answer, or can you give some detail around?
Let's report back to you because I'm looking at our data system and just haven't got that figure to hand, so we'll check up.
Okay, so that's an action.
All these amounts would have been paid out, and this is sort of an overdraft issue that it will be costing us, won't it? And that's what I was wondering as to the length of time that we're waiting for those payments to be made from the time they've been paid until we put the claim in, until we get paid.
I mean, it's a fair question. I mean, if it becomes problematic, if say we've paid it out in December and we don't get paid to June for whatever reason, there's definitely a timing issue. But most of them, you know, we pay them out in a month, and we invoice promptly, and then we get paid within, you know, either a month to 6 weeks. So normally the timing is not really a major issue for us. But when they do drag on a bit, it's a fair call. We'll look at this specific one. And just see, I mean, as Mrs. Brooks said before, in the debtors report, there's definitely one that's been a little bit messy through our system, but we've now got clarity over what the issue was for payment, and so it's never been a problem of not being paid. It's just a problem of when it got to the appropriate authorising officer and they didn't like it, but then we didn't get the appropriate feedback to get it sorted. So we've got that one now tidied up, but yeah, we'll check on this specific one too.
Okay, we'll put that in as an action point. Any other questions? Councillor Reedy.
Just a minor one, thank you, Madam Chair, page 116. When I look at the actual cost to date of $1,075,000, with submitted claims of 347, with revenue to date, which would indicate what's been reimbursed from NEMA or DIA, I can't remember the DIA, I think it is here. From DIA, 612, and we've still got 153 to claim. The numbers don't add up. The 1075, I'll just put it on there that someone can just go and check for next time, please. So the actual cost to date, the claims submitted, and the amounts to claim, and the revenue to date. It's just those three. I couldn't get them to balance last night.
Which one was it?
No, I'll tell you what you're saying. Can't be far. Who's got a calculator?
So you mean the figure of 153,817, Councillor Reid?
No, okay. What he's saying is claims submitted, revenue to date, any two claims should add up to the actual cost. That's what you're saying, councillor Reedy?
Correct, Madam
Yeah.
Chair.
Can that just be?
Yep, we'll look at that table,
Just
see that.
check that table, that can form part of that action point,
Yep,
please.
so we've got two items on that page,
Yes.
153 and then the table itself.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Okay. Thank you. Right, I'm going to put the resolution resolved that the Risk and Audit Committee received the reports and minutes from the January Projects and Partnership meeting. Can I have a move of that, please? Moved, Deputy Mayor Basher, seconded. Councillor Grafton, all in favour? Any against?
Abstain, thank you.
Name recorded, thank you. Motion carried, thank you. Right, now we're up to agenda item number 15, which is to move into public excluded. Just keep it going until we pass the resolution. Okay, so we've got two items in public excluded. Receiving the previous minutes of public excluded, and then the Goima summary and the details around the reason for passing that resolution are listed. And so I'm going to take those. I'm going to put the resolution resolved that the public be excluded from the following parts of the proceedings of the meeting for those reasons. I'll move that way, seconded by Mr. Mayor. You may.
And this came to me from the fourth estate, the question around why the Goima paper would be public excluded under conditions of the Goima. I understand it's probably because there are some
Names.
unresolved Goimas in the report, but just wondered if there was an explanation around that.
CEO.
As to why a report on the Goima would be excluded from the public under the Goima. So the reason I gave the inquirer was that the report includes some that are still outstanding.
Yeah. So some of those matters that the Goima request involved include commercial information, sensitive information that isn't in the public realm, and we review each of these for a proactive release, and where we can, we put all of our Goimas on our website, apart from the ones where we decide that that is not appropriate to share that information. And certainly for us to put any of these requests through, we would be then needing to seek some awareness of each of the people who have submitted these claims or these requests, and that has not been our approach to that.
So we've got, I've moved. We had a seconder?
I second it.
You seconded it, and then any further discussion? All in favour? Any against? And can you just note that councillor Reid, oh, did he abstain? Just note that councillor Reid is out of the room. Yeah.
He doesn't mention putting his hand up in the room.
Yeah. Thanks, Alan. So now we can stop the. Thank you to anyone that's listened from out in